The ashram was peaceful that day. A soft breeze moved through the trees, and birds sang gently in the distance. In that quiet space, Luv and Kush sat beside Maharishi Valmiki, having just finished singing a part of Ramayana. Their voice faded, but something did not feel complete. Luv softly asked them, Gurudev, what happens next? Kush leaned forward. Yes, Gurudev, the story isn't finished. Maharishi Valmiki smiled. He said, the rest of the story is written, my children, but the time to share it has not come yet. The boys fell silent, but their hearts were not at rest. The questions had begun to form, one that would not leave them. Kush spoke again, more thoughtfully this time. Gurudev, why did Shri Ram send Sita Mata away? The air seemed to grow still. This was not just a question of curiosity, it was the question of a heart. Maharishi Valmiki looked at the boys quietly before answering and said, Children, Shri Ram was not only a husband, he was also a king. And as a king, his duty was towards his people. He had to follow Raj Dharma. Luv frowned slightly. Kush lowered his gaze. They understood the words, but something inside them remained unsettled. Kush looked up again. But Gurudev, was that fair? Maharishi Valmiki's voice remained gentle. He said, Not all decisions are easy, my child. Sometimes doing what is right also brings pain. The boys said nothing after that. The ashram remained as peaceful as before. But inside the hearts of two brothers, something had begun to change. A quiet question had taken root, and it was leading them towards a truth they did not know yet. Welcome, my dear children, and all the wonderful parents to another episode of Ramayana series for kids.
Ancient culture tales.
The evening light spread across the ashram. Luv and Kush walked towards their hut, quieter than usual. Their steps were slow. Their minds were still filled with the question they could not set aside. Sita Mata was sitting near the entrance, gently arranging the flowers for the prayer. She looked up as they approached, and her eyes immediately understood. She said, My children, what is troubling your hearts? Luv hesitated for a moment, but then he spoke. Mother, today we heard something about Shri Ram. Kush continued in a thoughtful voice. Maharishi Valmiki told us that Shri Ram sent Sita Mata away, even though she had done no wrong. For a brief moment, silence rested between them. Sita Mata placed her hand softly on his head and said, Kush, Dharma is not always easy. Those who walk its path often have to make difficult choices. Luv and Kush fell silent. Their questions still have not disappeared, but something within them had softened. At the same time, far away in Ayodhya, events were already beginning to unfold. Far away from the quiet forest, the city of Ayodhya was filled with celebration. Children, it was the day of Shri Ram's birthday. Children, can you answer my one question? Which is the next festival coming up? Can anybody of you tell me this? Request your parents to drop your answers in the comment section below. Let us come back to our story. Children, Ayodhya was a happy kingdom. The people were safe and everything was running smoothly. Yet, one thought was shared in the court. One of the ministers came forward. He said, Prabhu, the kingdom is peaceful, but the people need something that inspires them, something that brings new energy and purpose. Shri Ram listened quietly, and then Lakshman spoke. He said, Bhaiya, we can perform the Ashwamedh Yagna. Children, the Ashwamedh Yagna is a special sacred ritual where a royal horse is sent across the kingdoms, and wherever it travels, it shows the strength and dharma of the king who performs it. Maharishi Vashishta nodded in agreement. He said, "Yes, Maharaj, this is the right path." Shri Ram folded his hands and accepted their guidance. The Ashwamedh Yagya began with quiet devotion. Sacred chants filled the air, and the holy fire burned steadily. Shri Ram stood beside it, calm, focused, offering each prayer with care. And, dear children, beside him stood a golden idol of Sita Mata, still, graceful, and deeply respected. Though she was not present there, her place remained by his side. And when the rituals were complete, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The sacred horse was brought forward. It stood tall and strong. A golden plate rested upon its forehead, carrying a message. It was a challenge that could not be ignored. It said, whoever chose to stop the horse would have to face the army of Ayodhya. Shri Ram stepped closer and gently placed its hand upon it. He then turned to Shatrughan and said, "Shatrughan, follow the horse, protect it, and return with honor." Shatrughan bowed with respect, and soon after, the divine horse was released. It began its journey across the forests, rivers, and distant lands, moving forward without hesitation. Wherever it went, people stepped aside, not out of fear, but out of respect for Shri Ram and the dharma he upheld. Days passed, and the horse continued its path until one day it entered a quiet forest, far away from the royal courts and busy kingdoms. It entered the peaceful ashram of Maharishi Valmiki. The trees in Maharishi Valmiki's ashram stood tall, and the wind moved gently through it, carrying a calm stillness across the land. It was here that Luv and Kush noticed something unusual. The two brothers stepped forward. Their eyes were drawn to the horse, which stood unlike anything they had seen before. Luv walked closer and noticed the golden plate upon its forehead. And when they both understood the message, a quiet silence settled between them. It was not just a wandering horse, it was a challenge. Luv looked at Kush and said, "Kush, if this is a challenge, it cannot be ignored." Kush replied, "Yes, Luv, we are Kshatriyas and we cannot step away from dharma." And then they stepped forward and tied the horse to a tree. Children, it was a simple act, but one that would change everything. They knew that this horse belonged to Ayodhya and it was sent by Shri Ram. They had so many questions running in their mind and they wanted the answers for it. This sounded like the only way to meet Shri Ram and get the answers to all their questions. But my dear children, the danger was approaching near. The message that the Ashwamedh Yagna horse has been stopped by someone reached Shatrughan without any delay. He arrived at the ashram with steady confidence, expecting to resolve the matter quickly. But as he stood before the young boys, something about the two boys made him pause. Shatrughan tried to make Luv and Kush understand. He said, "Children, this is not your battle. Release the horse and return to your ashram." But children, Luv and Kush stood firmly. They said, "We have accepted the challenge and now we cannot step back." There was no pride in Luv and Kush's voice, but what followed surprised everyone present. Shatrughan was a great warrior, strong and experienced too, but the strength of Luv and Kush was far greater, and Shatrughan understood that these children are not ordinary. In time, he had to step back, and soon, The news of Ashwamedh Yagya horse being stopped reached to Lakshman. When Lakshman arrived, he did not rush forward. He looked at the two boys standing together, and something about them made him pause. He too tried to make them understand, but Luv and Kush were firm on their words, and Lakshman understood that Luv and Kush would not step aside. The battle that followed was stronger, but even in that moment, the two brothers did not lose their calm. They remained steady, answering every move with discipline and care, until at last, even Lakshman had to step back. And now, the matter had grown very serious. After Shatrughan and Lakshman, Bharat arrived along with Sugriv and Hanuman. But this time, none of them rushed forward. Luv stepped ahead. He knew about Shri Ram's story from Maharishi Valmiki. And so, Luv and Kush moved slightly towards all the three people. He said, Rajkumar Bharat, your devotion is known. Maharaj Sugriv, your friendship will always be remembered. And Param Bhakt Hanuman, your service towards Shri Ram is unmatched. Children, even in the middle of conflict, Luv and Kush did not forget respect. Listening to their kind words, Bharat spoke gently, asking them to return the horse and end the matter peacefully. But Luv and Kush remained firm. They said, we cannot step away from Dharma, and only Shri Ram can take this horse back. Children, Hanuman stood quietly, watching them. He did not speak, but something in his heart had already begun to understand. The forest grew quiet once again. It was a kind of stillness that comes when something important is about to unfold. The great warriors of Ayodhya stood at distance. Shatrughan, Lakshman, and Bharat all had stepped back, and before them stood two young boys, calm and unshaken, as if they were waiting for what would come next. And then, my dear children, Shri Ram arrived. He did not rush forward. He walked with the same calm presence that brought comfort wherever he went. He came closer. His gaze fell upon Luv and Kush. And in that moment, my dear children, something within him paused. Shri Ram had faced mighty kings, powerful warriors, but this meeting felt different in a way he could not explain. There was no reason for it, yet his heart felt drawn towards the two boys standing before him. Luv and Kush stood with their bows in hands. Their expressions were steady, but even they felt a quiet shift within themselves, though they did not understand it. And then Shri Ram stepped forward and said calmly, Children, why have you stopped the horse? Luv met his gaze without hesitation and replied, Maharaj, we have not stopped it out of anger. We have accepted the challenge written upon it. Kush stood beside him, silent but firm. Shri Ram listened without interruption. His attention was steady and patient. Shri Ram replied, And what do you seek with that? With this question, Luv answered clearly, Maharaj, we need answers about dharma, about justice, and about Sita Mata. Children, at the sound of her name, a subtle stillness passed through the air. Shri Ram's expressions did not change, but something deep within him stirred. He said slowly, Children, a king does not live for himself. He lives for his people, and his duty is not always easy. Luv listened carefully, yet his heart remained unsettled. He asked, Then why? Why must someone who is so pure suffer so much? The question did not demand an answer, but it did not leave the space either. Slowly, he lifted his bow, not in anger or haste, but with a sense of duty that guided him even in the difficult moment. He looked at the boys once more. There was something familiar in them, something close, something that touched his heart without revealing its reason. The forest stood still, as if it too was waiting. As the moment began to rise, a calm voice gently brought everything to pause. Stop! It was Maharishi Valmiki. He stopped everyone. He walked forward slowly. Maharishi Valmiki looked at Shri Ram with respect and then at Luv and Kush with quiet understanding. Maharaj, this is not the path. A king does not raise weapons against children. And children, you must not raise weapons against the one who protects the world. Hearing this, both sides lowered their bows. The moment of battle faded. Luv and Kush said, Gurudev, we had accepted the challenge. Maharishi Valmiki nodded and then he turned towards Shri Ram. He said, Maharaj, these are not ordinary children. But my dear children, the truth was not spoken there because some truths are understood by the heart before they are spoken aloud. Luv and Kush stepped back and released the horse. The army began to move again, and slowly the forest returned to its quiet stillness. The two brothers walked back to the ashram. Their minds were filled with everything they had seen, and as they reached their mother, their voices carried a quiet excitement. They said, Mother, we met a great king today. He was calm and kind, and his name was Shri Ram. For a moment, Sita Mata became still. She listened as her son spoke, telling her about the horse, about the challenge, and the meeting that had taken place. She knew what had happened and what it meant. She closed her eyes for a moment, and then she looked at her sons with gentle love. Just then, Maharishi Valmiki stepped forward. He said calmly, Vandevi, it is the time. The truth must now be known. He looked at the boys with affection and said, Luv, Kush, Shri Ram is not just a king. He is your father. You are the sons of Shri Ram and Sita Mata. Children, the forest stood quiet once again. Luv and Kush fell silent. Their thoughts went back to the entire incident, the entire story taught by Maharishi Valmiki as Ramayana. Children, a new journey had begun, a journey that would now lead Luv and Kush towards Ayodhya, towards their father, and towards a new chapter of their story. Jai Shri Ram!
Ancient culture tales.